It's really quite something to observe the Irish government backpedaling like crazy and adopting what could be deemed as far right ideologies and thoughts when it comes to mass immigration into Ireland, specifically to do with illegal immigration through bogus asylum claims and welfare tourism that is rampant the length, breadth, and depth of Ireland. Micheál Martin, Simon Harris, both coming out with statements. Jim O'Callaghan this week. We need to tighten things up a little bit. This isn't really working as intended. Surprise, surprise. There's only been tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people preaching that very same message, walking the streets, carrying flags with their families and being slurred, slandered, and defamed for doing so. Well, I almost fell off my chair this morning when I saw this clip that's been uploaded on the News Talks website. It's to do with human trafficking in Ireland. They're admitting, hey, it's going on. It's on our own very shores. Again, something that would have been deemed as a far-right radical thought process harbored by the most wicked in society. Well, it would appear not at this time. They dipped their toe in the water with this one, but I want to show you what they have to say, and then I want to dissect it down, given that many commentators are saying, well, who's trafficking people in Ireland more than the Irish government themselves? That's what they say. So I'm just bringing this to your attention this morning. So let's hear some of the guff that's coming out of their mouths, and of course, an attempt to slur Irish men alongside it. But I'm going to play it. We'll break it down, and then we'll look at some shocking figures with regards to TUSLA, the Ireland's Care of Children organization, the amount of missing children there, dead children, children that have went. It's insane. It's insane. But anyway, here's some conversation from News Talk.
Human trafficking is not a distant problem. It's on the shores in Ireland. And the more people that can be aware of it and the more responsibility we can take in terms of where we spend our own money, that will all help in the fight against human trafficking.
Well, knock me down with a feather. Sure, that's what we've been saying. Many people have been saying for years now. But all of a sudden it's on News Talk, so therefore it must be true.
Yeah, a lot of people think prostitution, that's what it's all about. So there are young women who are holed up in some apartments or houses, moved maybe from place to place by vans and used by, and I use that, used and abused by Irish men.
Used and abused by Irish men? Does he have any figures or facts to back that one up that are revealing of these services? Think about this for a second. Who's flooding into Ireland? Hand over fist. Many single men. Were they all housed in government accommodation, IPAS centres? What are they doing there all day and night? Shacked up with hundreds, if not thousands, of other men. Well, we know what some of them do. They leave their accommodation and go on the prowl. Some of them. And if they don't find any females that they can hook up with or take advantage of or assault, where do they go? Surely there's a market for services of that kind. And here this Muppet is stating that these ladies are being used and abused by Irishmen? Maybe they are. But is that the only people doing it, availing of the services? Think about this. These are wicked people.
I mean, but that's only the tip of a very much larger iceberg, is it not?
That is a very big part of human trafficking, but there is the hidden in plain sight, as we call it, aspect of human trafficking, particularly around labour exploitation.
Labour exploitation? Cheap labour. cheap labor being flooding into Ireland. Who's allowing that? Who's facilitating that? Who constantly bangs on the drum and trumpets the message that we need foreign labor to prop up our healthcare, our hospitality, jobs that the Irish people won't do? Who constantly parrots that message? And now this is a conversation about human trafficking and exploitation, particularly around labor.
So people are brought into this country, they're transferred around the country.
They're brought into the country or allowed to enter the country and not be deported. They're moved around the country. Who's responsible for that? Who's allowing that to happen? This is unreal. The gaslighting here, they're trying to put it onto sorry, shady groups. And there are shady groups of men profiting from the misery of other people, trafficking them from one country to another to exploit them. That is going on, yes. But think of a bigger organization, a respectable organization, men and women that are well dressed and sit on benches maybe or chairs around tables and allow the same thing to happen, but with an air of respectability. Labor exploitation.
And they're working in horrendous conditions, and they are potential victims of human trafficking as well as being forced into criminality.
What sort of industries might we find human trafficking victims in?
The labour industry, you have nail bars, car washes, sometimes within the hospitality sector as well.
Hospitality sector? The Irish government is constantly telling us that the hospitality sector in particular and the healthcare sector is propped up by foreign labour. They don't mention the government here, though.
And it's people working very long hours for very little money and being exploited in the labour industry.
And that's why many Irish people are leaving Ireland, because they will not be exploited, and they're leaving Ireland for pastures new, leaving a void or a gap for cheap labour and people to be exploited. And it's happening in agriculture.
Happening in agriculture. It's particularly in seasonal agriculture during the summer and so on. And we have a successful prosecution before the courts in the northwestern part of the country, where people were working in service trade in the food industry and forestry, and they were trafficked by people from their own country. The reason, I suppose, why victims are trying to leave these places is for famine, war.
Famine and war. If you're leaving a country for famine, you'll stop in the first place that has food. If you're starving, you'll stop in the first place that has food. You won't skip across countries. And the same thing could be said for war. If you're fleeing from war, potential death of you and your family, you will stop in the first safe place. If you're legit. Why else would you want to make it all the way to Ireland? Why the hell would you want to come from somewhere like Sudan or Afghanistan and live in Donegal? Unless the pickings are better than they are, for example, in Syria or Ethiopia.
Trying to get a better life somewhere else, persecution that they've received, and obviously there's a distrust with authorities. So we have to bridge that gap between law enforcement and building rapport with victims as well.
Building rapport, bridge the gap, all very management speak, isn't it? And just to give you a flavour, some of the comments that appeared below this clip, I'm just reading them out. Government is biggest human traffickers. The government are the biggest human traffickers. Second comment to that. Third comment, you can add in the government. Just reading out what people's opinions are. iPass centres, Tusla as well. Irish government have loads of them and they're profiting off it. It's just the opinion of many people. And there's many, 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 many more comments, not just under this video, but similar ones that would say the same thing. That's what the sentiment is. That's what the opinion is. And when you look at some of the organizations that the Irish government is running, and this is just a piece that was put up a week ago. One single child in Tuslacare reported missing 274 times in a single year. Records obtained by the Journal. So that's where they, through a Freedom of Information request, revealed there's been almost 7,000 recorded incidents of children going missing from state care in 5 years. 7,000 incidents. Where are these children going? Where are they ending up? And this is an organization that the government runs? How can that be? How can that be? Data released by Tusla under the Freedom of Information Act shows a pattern of repeated disappearances from Ireland's state-run residential centres, with some very young people going missing dozens of times a year. Where are they going? How can this be allowed to happen repeatedly? And just this week, it's been talked about all month, in the month of November, asylum seekers with jobs will be required to pay towards their accommodation under new plans. So fleeing persecution, seeking asylum, and then coming over here and working. In what type of jobs? The type that the News Talk article is expressing that people are being exploited in. The percentage of what they pay will depend on their earnings. Cheap labour. And IPAS, International Protection Accommodation Services Centres, ran and sanctioned by the Irish government. Asylum seekers are allowed to work if they've applied for international protection. So really, is it humanity, as Mayhall Martin keeps going on about? Or is it, hey, we need cheap labour and we need it fast? Just throwing the question out there. What do you think? These are just facts. This is not my opinion. This is facts. This is what's going on right now and has been for years. If they've been waiting 6 months from a first decision or application for asylum, they're allowed to work. Allowed to work. Talking about labour being needed to build a new transport project, they say we'll need 8,000 people to come in. We need 8,000 more labourers. Where are we going to get them from and where are we going to house them? Well, we don't have houses to put them in, but we are buying up hotels like City West. You can accommodate thousands of people. Put them in there and you get them to work at the same time. It's a racket. It's a racket. Tell me what you think below in the comment section. Cut and paste the link to this. Send it out to people who are skeptical, saying, no, 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 that's not really going on, is it? Yes. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. For now, I'm Rick Munn. This is No Risk, No Reward Media. Over and out.